Hey, Bigpod.
Hey,
I might have bought more plastic miniatures. This time for a completely different game that's not Warhammer. That's infinitely cheaper. So, and I bought this box at discount because it was sitting up there on the store shelf forever. For you, the video users, I'm holding the box up right now. You probably hear it from the audio, but this is a 2-player starter set for this game called Conquest First Blood. I don't know a single person that actually plays this game. So, maybe because I bought the 2-player starter set, I can get somebody to play this game with me. What do you think my chances are?
Closer to the what is it called, the absolute zero than to zero.
I'm certain I can probably sucker somebody into this. Sounds like something I could probably get my brother involved in. Either way, we got a show for the guys here, so I guess we need to play some fancy music first, right?
Yes.
Hey guys, welcome to No Tux Loud. I'm your host Josh, and today I am wearing a brand new t-shirt. I went out and I spent $3 on this shirt, Bigpod. Feel proud of me.
Really?
Yes. It's the first t-shirt.
So no haul in a long time.
There might be one tomorrow because this is a dollar store t-shirt. And yes,
yeah.
It's another beautiful white t-shirt because that's just what I buy. In the meantime, we got Bigpod here. I think your shirt's green.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that weird color. Like some people would say, "Oh yeah, that's green." Others might say that's a bit more blue. You never really
It's
know
green.
these days. Yeah.
Lighting helps give it a weird color.
Right. So it's the last episode of our distro challenge.
Yeah.
We have voiced our opinions on our distros. But first
You
of
have
all,
seen problems with my distro
yes,
of pain.
we've both had some problems, both unique to the distros.
Yeah.
But I have a confession to make, Bigpod.
Really?
Yes. So while I'm talking here, I'm going to go ahead and we'll pull up this mandatory fetch program here for our YouTube listeners to let everybody know. I've been using Slackware, and we've been using specifically the Slackware current branch, so we can get a kernel that supports my Intel Arc GPU. But
Okay.
let's get on to my confession here, right?
Yeah. I'm also interested in what's the confession.
Yeah. First of all, I have used this computer every single day. I can promise you that. And I have had some difficulty, but for the most part, it's actually worked perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Actually, the only time I notice I'm using Slackware is when I go to run a system update, and then run their little system cleaning post update script, which then proceeds to delete all my third-party installed applications that I then have to reinstall. Yeah, that's a whole mess. But outside of that, it's been perfectly fine. Now, one thing that I have ran into is that seemingly, and this is the only distro where this seems to have worked, is that most of the time I'm using Wayland sessions simply because that's always just worked better for an Intel Arc GPU in my experience.
Okay.
But mostly what happens is that the video frames just tend to freeze on X11. I'll have maybe 2 seconds of being able to move my mouse and interact with the system, and then it just freezes for 5 to 10 seconds, and then it resumes back where it was. And I kind of figured that this was the video driver at some point, because it's the only thing unique about the system is that it's an Intel Arc GPU. So switch off of X11, switch to Wayland, and everything's working perfectly fine. That's actually why I've been using Wayland for the past 2 years.
Yes.
Almost exclusively, because it's just worked better. But here on Slackware, for some reason, The Wayland session on KDE Plasma just gives me nothing but problems. Now, there are two different Wayland sessions for Plasma on Slackware. For those of you that are probably about to tell me that I'm using the wrong one, there's one that's full Wayland, which is basically just KDE Plasma running without X Wayland. That's really the only difference. The other one is KDE Wayland, which does allow you to use X Wayland. For those that don't really know, X Wayland is just basically like a compatibility layer for Wayland to like X11. We're going to be talking about that a lot later today, so don't dwell on that too long. But what about you? How's the Gen 2 life been?
Outside of recording and having horrible problems that you can see on the video, thankfully not so much on audio, although I don't know, it's been fairly okay on audio, so I can't say this in edit. But then again, I also hate my voice, so probably wouldn't notice if there was anything wrong with my voice. But otherwise, yeah, outside of recording and then getting video to be half decent, Gen 2 has been treating me just fine.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Honestly, I think for some part I would say that it isn't any faster than any other distro.
Well, to be fair, Gen 2 hasn't said that since solid state drives became like kind of prevalent, because technically the only reason Gen 2 was a faster system was because you compiled the binaries, and because you could control how you compiled the binaries, you could make them really minimal, which meant that the binaries were physically smaller on your spinning Rust hard drive.
Yeah, which means they read faster.
Yeah. So that's really the performance gains that people are referencing when they're talking about Gen 2. We're on solid state systems.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. We're not waiting for a disk to make like however many revolutions around a spinning reader.
Yeah.
It's just there.
And it's time for my fast fetch. Here we go. Well, it took a while for it to display, but yeah,
that did take a minute.
Exact same system. Nothing has changed, so back to my face.
Yep.
And Josh, have we decided on the next challenge?
Yes.
Distro?
And it's a spicy one
Really?
for both of us.
Yeah.
It really is. Because, we talked about this. I know we talked about Arch Linux the last episode. But the running news right now is that Arch Linux is dealing with a bit of a DDoS issue. And I don't want to run into issues relating to that. Because, I want to be able to make Arch Linux as reliable a system as I possibly can if I'm even going to attempt to use it. Because historically, it's never been reliable for me. And with all these other issues going on right now, I just don't want to give it a bad review because of that. So I'm just going to keep away from that one for a little bit. So then we got talking about, some other things that we could do. And I think we came to a conclusion, right, Bigpod?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
We decided to, for very, very negatively for me, because I hate it, we're gonna do NixOS.
Yes. Now, we have both used NixOS before, so we both know exactly what we're getting into.
Yes.
Except for me, because I'm going plus extra on my NixOS installation. Because so my desktop computer has way too much system memory. It's sitting there doing basically nothing. All 64 gigs of it. Right now, I am only using 7 gigs. 7.5 gigs. Just to record this episode, chat with you, Bigpod, and have 2 open tabs on Firefox. So, I have a lot of memory that's not being used, and we all know that unused RAM is wasted RAM. So,
Yeah.
NixOS has this capability of doing something very unique to NixOS, and maybe GNU Geeks as like the only other one, where you can technically run the entire system out of a RAM disk. And
Interesting.
yes, now obviously you'll hear about like these RAM disk systems in the past that are used in like the enterprise space, but what those are VMs that are spun up, mounting entirely in memory, booting up to a golden system image. The difference between that and what I'm talking about is that NixOS, basically, the idea is that every time I turn on the computer, I pull in the latest version of everything because it has to reinstall NixOS every time I turn it on. So my system boot up is probably going to turn to trash when there's a Chromium update that's available and I'm the first one to install it. But it's all for the sake of learning, and we might actually make a distro hacking episode out of that one. I'm still working on that one. Obviously, by the time that this episode comes out, I might already have that stream. So just go to my YouTube channel and see if it's there. If it's not there, just means that I haven't done it at least yet. But I have a free day on Saturday. I can figure this out.
Well, at this point, we think we have talked enough about the distro challenge because I'll just install it. Like, I don't have anything special to talk about like Josh has. So we're gonna talk about something else, specifically how you can help out the tiny little podcast that is No Tax Allowed. So Josh, how can they help?
Oh well, I just paid the bills for everything, so I feel a little bit more poorer in my wallet. So that's one way you can help, because we're doing things the hard way, and the hard way is not the free way. It's also not really the most affordable way that we could run this show, but it is probably the best way we can run our podcast, because when this show, unless you're watching it on YouTube, sorry YouTube viewers, you don't get the glory of our hand touch systems that we set up for you, because you decided that you're going to watch this from YouTube.
Yeah.
And also, I don't want to be hosting PeerTube yet. We'll work on it. We'll work on it when we can actually get dedicated hardware. But right now, we're just using a VPS server, and that would get expensive if we set up PeerTube on that. But anyways, you can go if you would like to help out with that, and all of our other wild adventures, like me going to Europe and visiting Bigpod, because heaven forbid, it'll probably be the only time in my life I ever go to Europe. To be honest with you, I mean, it's either I move to Europe at this point, or I go to Europe and I spend at least a month there. It's one or the other. So you can help me fund either my vacation or eternal move by going to patreon.com/tuck
No Tax Allowed, Josh.
I know. I almost said tuck space. That one doesn't exist for some silly reason.
Yeah. And if you wish to have that kind of glorious, great podcast hosting service, well, send us an email at contact@taxbase.com and we can make a deal. Also, if you want to just send us a message or just talk to us, but you don't want to use more modern solutions, contact@taxbase.com is available just to talk. But if you are more modern, I recommend checking out taxbase.com/discord, which will redirect you to our Discord server where you can talk with two of us and the rest of our, while small but growing Discord community.
Yep. In fact, I actually see that there's a couple of people just sitting there idle right now, just kind of hanging out. Just stop in there and say hello to everybody. Because if you're going to be starting a conversation, hello is a great way to start. So,
Yeah.
also, if you just want to sponsor a show because you're awesome and you think you have an awesome product that fits with our advertising guidelines, well, technically it's my advertising guidelines because
Yeah.
I run this behind the scenes.
He is the CEO.
I'm basically, well, I'm the sole proprietor right now. I'm not a CEO, but I can call myself a CEO.
Okay.
It'll be fine.
You're gonna be a CEO
Yeah.
at one point.
At some point, I'm gonna be CEO, and I guess you could be the CTO. So,
Yeah.
well, anyways, if you want to throw us a bone, just send us an email to that same contact at tuxbase.com email address, and we will gladly talk about your product here.
Yes.
So,
Here.
let's talk about this post that I have seen
Yeah.
blowing up. So the title of this post is "Please Don't Promote Wayland."
Josh,
Now,
I actually wanna start at the very bottom and then go back up.
Okay. So let me go to this here. The keyboard press I'm going to hit is the end key. That takes me straight to the bottom of the page.
So first a bit of an explanation. This is actually an open letter written by, I guess, three signatories. And the reason I want to start at the bottom is because while okay, they are anonymous, but throughout the actual open letter, you're gonna see or hear things that are questionable of questionable truthiness, questionable, just general questionable, and some of those will be questionable based on the credentials these three signatories put forth. So first off, there is an anonymous developer, maintainer of crucial system tools, a frustrated user, Linux user since 1995, and one that I like the most important, I think, in this case, especially for the what is actually true or not, system administrator who manages 500 plus Linux workstations. Now, let's dig into the actual meat and bones of the article.
Yeah, and
So
this is
I'm
gonna
scrolling all the way to the top, and it's taking quite a bit of time.
I just hit the home
It's
key.
a
It
it's
takes
a
me straight
it's
to
a
the top.
it's a long page.
Yeah, so it's probably going to be a bit of a lengthy segment too.
Yes.
First of all, this article starts off with a very real number, 3%, roughly.
Yes.
Now, when I'm talking about 3%, we're talking about the Linux desktop usage worldwide.
Yes.
If you do not know what Linux is, Linux is a kernel. It's not an operating system or anything like that. It's a kernel. That's literally the thing
Yes.
that your hardware talks to. It's the thing that sits between your hardware and your operating system. Oh wait,
Well,
we're talking about
yeah.
Linux in context of the operating system here because we've
Yes.
got these distributions. So let's first of all, Bigpod, to set the context as to what's going on here, we need to rewind time a little bit here to the year, I believe it's 2008, when Xorg developers were starting to get frustrated with the X11
Yeah.
code.
Not X11 code, X11 Xorg server code.
Oh,
That's
yes.
X11 is the set of protocols. X11 Xorg X server is the server, the thing that was actually the thing with a lot of code that was problematic. That's an important distinction because we all talk normally about X11, but X11 is set of protocols with X server being among one, Xorg X server being one among many implementations of the X11 protocols. But in reality, there was only one realistic implementation. Everything else is a fork of it.
Yeah. So
That's back in the day.
yeah. Well, anyways, they got together. They started writing around a wish list for X12, the future
Yes.
of are free and open source desktops. Now, as this wish list grew, a couple of them started referencing back to the X server, and they were just like, well, how can we update this to reflect that?
And they came to realization that they can't.
Yeah, and this is mostly because
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, this is mostly because, well, the X server codebase has been around since 1984. They are 24 years into development of this. Now,
remember, the X11, the 11 isn't just for fun there. There has been 10 versions of X before that, the whole protocols, and Xorg has been implementing all of them. The X server, the original one. Then came the fork of Xorg.
So,
but let's not go into that history. That's history.
In fact, I'll see if I can find a link to an Xorg developer talking about the history of X development. It is very fascinating, and I do recommend that you give it a watch because the guy's also kind of entertaining about it too. But anyways, as they got around to working on this, looking at the various spaghetti codes, these C pointers that seemingly point to nothing and so on, they got around to just like, okay, what if we just start fresh?
I bet there was probably pieces of code that had a comment, do not delete this, this is load bearing, we don't know why. There probably were many such functions in there, because or, it's tag that
the random blank space that just seems to keep the system alive.
Yes.
So
and, that tag that is really amazing, believe me. And at one point you need to go, this is past, we need to go with the new. And that's what they decided at the time. They had a list of requirements, and apparently most of them were also fulfilled by this tiny little tool that was being designed. One of the two, actually, at the time, Wayland. So the team that was behind Xorg decided to jump into Wayland development instead of making X12, because based on what I understand, there is really only one major difference, that they were okay dropping, apparently, even though in their wish list they name it as can't be considered optional extra, but now it is, and even beyond optional, just not available as a part of protocols, and that is network transparency. One of the one of the things people are very attached to for some reason.
Yeah. So, anyways, these authors talk about like this 3% market share. It's a very small market. It has been growing. Like
yes.
it actually has. We see report after report after report.
It might be 4% now, maybe even 5%.
Yeah, maybe
depending on who you ask.
But anyways, he's talking. It starts off touching on fragmentation, basically within like the Linux, within the Linux desktop space, and we've talked about this on the show before too. I literally think it was like one of our first 3 episodes we talked about this.
Yeah,
but I think it was he talks about dozens of distros, each with different defaults.
I have to correct him there. There is not dozens of distros. I wish there were dozens of distros. There are probably thousands.
Yes, and I can see the editor going right now, looking up, Googling that distro family tree there, that really toxic chart.
That amazing family chart, yes.
That's not even close to the accurate to the number of distros that actually exist.
Yes. And let's also just quickly be realistic about it. The Ubuntu's, and by that I mean the Ubuntu and its many flavors, is probably all in the 3%, probably 90% of actual desktops.
I don't know if it's 90%, but it's definitely north of 50.
It is well north of 50 if you combine Ubuntu GNOME, Ubuntu Mate, and Ubuntu KDE.
Yeah. So
the 3 biggest ones.
Yeah, and that's the reason why when you see like these these projects get ported over to Linux, they just offer an Ubuntu binary and they tell you just use
Yeah.
Ubuntu because
Because that's where people are. Like the actual people are on either Ubuntu or Red Hat, because what else is there for professionals? We're not talking about enthusiasts, because enthusiasts in reality are actually a minority.
that is true. And of course, this article was not written by enthusiasts. It was written by professionals. The signatories declaration says so. So,
Yeah.
then
And before we continue,
Oh.
I actually want to say something else. This article probably wasn't written by AI.
No, it probably wasn't because I could see incorrect spelling, incorrect punctuation. So AI, as
And I
bad
want
as it
and
gets,
I'm willing to say it would be more cohesive
yeah,
and less passionate and less wrong.
potentially. But anyways, it gets talking
Likely.
about like the multiple desktop environments. Honestly, yeah, that is an issue, and thankfully, the adoption of a new display protocol has seemed to mostly fix the worst of it.
Yes,
And
they
of course,
cut down on most of them. Yay!
the added fragmentation between X11 and Wayland, because technically speaking, Wayland is not X11.
It never will be, never was, and never will be, and
Yeah.
never planning to even have all the features
Yeah.
of
Now,
X11.
this is different from the other operating system spaces where we talk about Windows and Mac OS, because realistically on the desktop computer, that's what matters. Because Windows has never had their APIs change, and Mac OS is the
Never.
most stable operating system on earth.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm certain that there's somebody out there that has done Windows development and says, "Oh, that's totally wrong." And then there's a Mac OS user going like, "Oh yeah, my desktop crashed like 5 minutes after starting the show."
And not just that, like there is probably a macOS developer who's first of all, he's probably hitting the head because of Xcode. Second of all, he's probably asking himself why this API changed in the middle of the night.
Right?
Because that they in Apple, they don't care about backwards compatibility to that kind of a point.
Yeah, believe it or not, with X11 existing in the Linux space for so long, we've got decades of established APIs because people were just too lazy to actually fix it.
Yes,
That's really what it is. They weren't incentivized to fix it, so they were just too lazy to fix it.
yes, and that's what made X11 and Xorg stable. Not the fact that it exists for decades, but that it exists for decades with no development.
Yeah, and then he talks about there's an issue where now when you write an application, you need to support multiple Wayland compositors. We'll touch on this here in a minute. Because for the most part, you're probably never actually interacting with the compositor if you're writing an application.
Yeah, it doesn't. So then they go into the fragmented platform, and they go into before Wayland and after Wayland, where before Wayland there was one display server, a consistent behavior across all Linux distributions, mature stable API with decades of documentation. We already said what we wanted to say, that it was stable because nobody was working on it. Feature parity with Windows and macOS for most use cases, and predictable window management and input handling. Okay.
So, first of all, let's talk about window management and input handling, because at this point we kind of need to explain how Wayland operates, because Wayland is not a server. It's not an X server replacement. It's an X11 replacement. So let's talk a little bit here about how the Wayland space is kind of just organized, right? So, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Bigpod, but Wayland is just a set of agreed protocols. So when you're writing
Yes.
your graphical environment for the Wayland desktop, these are the guys that write the specification and the rules for what you need to do on your graphical desktop.
Yes.
Now, the thing that drives your
What your
graph
compositor needs to do.
Yes, I was about to touch on that. The compositor is the thing that draws everything on your screen. Uh,
Yes.
that's why they're called compositors and not window managers, because it
Yes.
does a little bit more than just manage windows. It manages the entire graphical stack.
Yes.
Now, when they decided that they were going to fill out their whole wish list of features for X12, the Xorg developers said we need to make sure that we don't have like we take security a little bit more seriously, because if we're going to do it, now is the best time to do it.
Well, X11 and Xorg were a security nightmare. Any window could look at any other window without user even knowing. Technically speaking, any user of the same server, even if it's connected remotely, or it's another machine connecting, another terminal connecting to that machine. That's an old thing. Young people won't know, the old people might. You could edit someone else's window. Like literally, you could move their mouse, you could write into their windows, you could move them around, you could do everything that user could do from possibly even across the room, which was actually a problem back in the day when you had a whole room and one computer for the whole room. That back in the old days of very, very old.
Yeah.
When a computer was about half this room or even the whole room.
Yeah, and I know we're going to touch on this here in a minute, but I want to talk this first of all now. So, say if I'm an application developer, like a graphical application developer, should I really have access as to where and how my window gets spawned?
In some rare cases, yes. There are cases where you should be able to set spawn on primary window, spawn on secondary window. You should be able to set, if you have multiple windows, spawn in this arrangement. But that's it. Nothing else. You don't need to have any kind of location, any kind of movement capability by on your own. That should be handled on the compositor side. Only
Yeah.
things you should do is select whether you want to be spawned on primary monitor that's specifically useful for games, and you should have capability to be moved to a separate monitor automatically, because user may want to move you to that monitor, and that can be done. But that's very basic
Yeah,
stuff.
but
Nothing overly complex, like doing, I don't know, whatever with the windows you could do in X.
I mean, if the compositor is already doing the window management, why don't we just have
You could,
the compositor do all that?
yeah, you could have a way to tell the compositor, I need this window to spawn on a primary monitor, because if it's a game, I don't want it spawning on a monitor that's over there.
Yeah. Now, and
Because
the
I'm
reason
not gonna be playing like that. I wanna
So-
play it like that.
so the reason why I'm making this statement here is because on a X11, you can install these standalone window managers, right? Like you don't have bars, you don't have file managers or anything. You have just the window manager. Now, some of them are tiling window managers, where your window has every window that you spawn has a very predefined set of rules that it has to follow, and then you launch a video game, and the video game looks weird because it spawned in a window and it got tiled.
Yeah.
It didn't full screen by default like it's supposed to. Well, that's because the game is trying to say that, hey, I am full screen. The window manager disagreeing and saying, no, you're just going to do it this way. Now, it's understandable for the case of video games to start in full screen to begin with. So why can't the game just instead just hook to this random protocol that says, hey, this is client full screen protocol. I would like to invoke this, and the compositor just go, okay, I'm just gonna take my hands off of you. You can just do whatever you want.
Yeah, because that's technically
that seems
what,
so much
what
nicer.
should be done.
Yeah.
As far as I know, on Windows, unless it's sent to windowed borderless, once it's full screen, it takes over, and it is for that screen while it's on completely on its own.
Right. Well, anyways, let's talk about the after Wayland adoption issue, where now developers have to support multiple protocols. There's a bit of a yes and no to this. Oh, we'll get to that as
developers don't have to support anything because most of the stuff is supported either Compositor handles it or is supported by your toolkit, and then you don't have to handle anything and it just works.
Yeah. And then the next bullet here is different behavior across desktop environments. Well, first of all, you're changing the entire graphical stack.
Yes.
And there's a very stark difference between GNOME and KDE, like very stark difference, because not only is GNOME it's written in GTK and KDE is written using Qt graphical libraries. So not only does your window look different, it's probably going to behave differently because it's entirely two different toolkits drawing your application.
Yeah,
so
and they have different philosophies of what should happen with stuff on screen.
Even
of course,
then,
it's going to be different.
Even then, you have these same exact issues with that on X11.
Yes. Yes, you do. The third thing is immature APIs with missing functionality.
So
to me, there is no missing functionality because by what they mean missing functionality is missing functionality compared to X11. Well, Wayland isn't trying to be a rewrite of X11. It's trying to be its own thing.
Yeah.
Therefore, there is no functionality parity expected. They also say there is significant feature regression compared to other platforms, where yes, there are some features that are missing that are available on Windows and macOS, like what? Oh yeah, that the game can tell on which monitor to spawn, but many of those are getting solved over time when we realize those problems actually exist.
Yeah, and then this last bullet here, I think is actually a bit fair because they're saying that the testing matrix is exponentially more complex. Yes, that is true, but at the same time, if you're developing an application, you're probably not really noticing.
Yes, and you're not gonna be testing on Wayland GNOME, Wayland KDE, Wayland Hyperland, Wayland Western. You won't be doing that. You'll be just testing on Wayland.
Or, just testing on just GNOME or just KDE. You're not going to care about the rest of them.
Yes. That's the reality. And most independent developers and small teams don't have resources to properly test and support this complexity. The result, either dropping Linux support entirely, that doesn't happen because of Wayland, let's be clear.
Most of the time it's not because of Wayland.
Only X11. Okay, support only X11. I'm gonna run your app in X Wayland. It will work just fine. It is literally a fully featured X server. Supporting only one Wayland compositor, usually GNOME. Okay.
That's actually kind of fair.
GNOME.
That's actually kind of fair because, let's face it, GNOME is just popular.
GNOME is the default.
Yeah,
GNOME is almost the standard. We just need to say it's the standard, and it will be the standard. Most people run it already.
Yeah,
and this harkens back to the initial discussion of how many users use Ubuntu. It is that more than half of users of Ubuntu use GNOME. So probably a good 40% of all users use GNOME just through Ubuntu. Then we're still talking Fedora and Red Hat, where it's also probably most users.
Well, for the
GNOME.
longest
So
time there, if you wanted to
more than
install
50%.
for the longest time there for Fedora, if you were going to install a desktop on Fedora, the only official option was GNOME. Everything else
Yes.
was a community idea. And then if you were installing Red Hat, the only desktop that is packaged in the Red Hat repositories is GNOME.
GNOME.
You can't install anything
And
else.
they also say that they will also ship broken or limited functionality. Again, yes, that's because we're Linux users, not because it's Wayland's fault. Yes, there may be additional features missing, but vast majority of missing features in applications will be because they just didn't re-implement them for Linux.
Yeah. Now here's my favorite part about this website here. Now starts busting out like the CSS scripts, like the obvious ones,
Yes.
where these little boxes, they hover when you mouse over them. They're not actually links. There is no citations in this article. Just
Nope.
letting you know, there are no citations, just complaints. So we're just gonna skip
When I
past.
first read this, I just skipped over them because they seemed more advertisement than anything else, like trying to get in my face about
and
those things.
they are kind of repetitive too. So
Yeah.
let's talk about like the real world impacts, and a couple of these can be fair. A couple of them, not really something that we can actually fix. So let's talk about enterprise adoption. First of all, if say I am a system administrator of over 500 systems, all those systems are probably running the same exact distribution with the same exact desktop,
Yeah.
with the same exact application suite, with the same exact configurations. Because I'm smart and I make use of a golden image.
Yeah.
So
And then developer productivity. Well, once again, they may have a bit more to test, and they may have to press couple of more buttons to tell the GTK or Qt that they want Wayland feature to light up, and that's it.
yeah,
While they say they will have significantly more time focus on Wayland limitations instead of actual project.
well, let's talk about user experience, because I think that my talk here from the very start of the episode on Slackware kind of touches on this. Or where they're saying that end users experience crashes, missing features, and inconsistent behavior that didn't exist with X11. First of all, X11 crashes as well. I've crashed X11.
Yes. And it's very inconsistent.
Yeah, I've crashed X11 a lot, and there is inconsistent behavior in X11. Don't lie to me and tell me that on your X11 system, sometimes when you grab a window and drag it around, it lags. That is a thing.
Yeah.
It is a thing. It exists. And of course, let's talk about hardware support, because they talk about NVIDIA, where they say NVIDIA users face particular challenges and many specialized hardware configurations simply do not work reliably. First of all, this is NVIDIA we're talking about. There's a reason why Linus Torvalds gave NVIDIA the literal middle finger.
Also, the same problem applies to X11 if we started developing it again.
Yeah.
NVIDIA would have to again care about X11 and building for X11 the new versions of X11. This wouldn't have changed. Only if X11 stays the same for the next however many years Linux exists, and then nobody cares anymore.
And let's be honest here, it's not Wayland's issue to make NVIDIA work. That is on NVIDIA and their user space tools to make sure that NVIDIA works on the Linux desktop. That is NVIDIA's fault, 100%.
Yeah.
So,
well,
yeah. Let's talk
Let's
about
go
the.
into supposed missing core features. Again, let's be clear. We're talking about we're not comparing it to X11. If they are, we're not because, well, there is no feature parity supposed to be there. So their missing features, according to them, is no global hotkeys, which yes, there is a problem with that because, for example, I have OBS. I cannot switch scenes while focused on another application. Yes, that is a problem. But
Let,
are
let's
there
let's
actually
be
that
honest
many
here.
applications that care about global shortcuts?
Let's be honest here. Global hotkeys are a convenience thing. Now,
Yes.
I said at the very start here when they were talking about Wayland, they said that they might as well make it secure because it's the best time to be secure. What is the Bigpod? I have an honest question for you. What is the enemy of security?
Convenience.
Oh, I think I've said
And
that
an,
before.
an enemy of security is basically allowing whatever you want,
Yeah.
because
Now let's talk about.
then you just make too many holes.
Yeah, it is incredibly easy to make a basic keylogger for X11. It is
Yes.
way too easy to do. So you could do it with a Bash script. So
Yep.
they wanted this to be a bit more secure. And honestly, if I have a Discord window open, why does that Discord window need to see every single key press that I'm typing into, say, a text editor or Firefox?
Yeah.
Does Discord really need to see everything?
Yeah.
Now,
Doesn't.
they're saying that global hotkey support does not exist on Wayland. It technically does.
Yes,
We'll
there
we'll
is a portal for that.
we'll touch on portals. We'll touch on that
Yeah.
later. Because
The second thing is no screen recording without permission dialog, which there should be a permission dialog.
there
You
honestly
shouldn't be
should be.
some random thing shouldn't just able to, without you knowing, record the screen, record a window. That shouldn't be a thing. And while yes, there are valid use cases for recording the screen while away from in front of it, yes, they are valid reasons. But I don't know if they are actually that valid. Honestly, all of them are actually, and okay, all of them are very corporate, but at the same time, if you're not in front of the computer, why are you recording the screen, really?
Right?
I'm I always ask myself that. Yes, there is, it's actually in Wayland world, the screen recording and remote desktop are actually by how it's made technically the same thing, kinda. So yeah, that's where the whole remote desktop thing, that's where it works. But guess what? Every desktop that is worth their salt has this little button or a checkbox that says do not remember this or do not show again. And when you click that, it's gonna magically just work without a permission dialog. And sorry to tell you, but if your doesn't do that, you should probably switch to something that does, because, well, it's not that we should just, I want to say it differently, we should just move away from things that don't follow specifications and standards. In this case, a standard called Wayland.
Here's my personal favorite. No reliable clipboard management. Clipboard data will disappear when the source application closes. So, Bigpod, how often have you copied a password onto your clipboard?
Nowadays, very rarely.
Very rarely, but sometimes you probably still do.
Yes.
Like, I know that you and I have shared, like random walls of text that we're not going to go into too much detail as to what they do, that are because
Yeah.
they're supposed to be secure, back and forth, and I don't want that stuff to stay on my clipboard history.
Yeah. And let's be clear, the way this is written is, if I open VS Code, do Control A, Control C, and then close the window, if I paste it in some other application, like let's say a browser, there should nothing be pasted, which is wrong. I tested.
Yeah,
Data was still in the but that might be a known feature.
it might be GNOME.
So
Well,
maybe they should use a fully featured desktop environment instead of some random shish kebab they picked up off the
right.
street.
In fact, we have a link in the show notes that gives you a nice little chart that shows you all the protocols the different desktops support. And just go for the one that has the most green checkboxes, and
Yeah.
just try that out.
The next thing is no window decoration protocol. Okay, but guess what? In most cases, you would actually want that to be the case because then Compositor might actually force decorations where they shouldn't be, and that
Right.
would be a whole
So
whole other problem because application might not actually know it's running in Wayland.
that's
It
true.
might not care. It might not care that because that part might not care about whether you have client side or server side decoration. They just want to show a decoration.
Yeah. So and even then, Wayland is just a set of protocols. Does it really need to have a protocol set for window decorations when we can't
Yeah.
even agree as to what graphical toolkits we're actually using? Because
Yes.
we've got the ICE toolkit, the GTK toolkit, the QT toolkit, the Enlightenment toolkit, and then at least like 7 or 8 others that I can't immediately
Yeah.
think of the name of. Uh, Now we've got some broken application categories. So screen managers and color pickers.
Josh, what is Screen Manager?
So I don't know if you've ever messed around with the color settings on your screen before, Bigpod.
Yeah, I did,
Okay. Did you know that?
but not on my desktop on a
Yeah.
professional display.
Now, a screen manager is a tool, usually graphical, that can handle that stuff for you as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Uh,
And for those who do not know what a color picker is, since we're already explaining applications, color picker is, that application that you can then select whatever pixel on your screen. It will tell you exactly what RGB color it is.
Now,
And guess what? Those actually work on Wayland.
the color pickers actually do work. So I don't know where they're coming up with that source. Screen managers, that's your compositor's job.
Yes. Then there is no automation tools, no way to programmatically control our applications. Again, security, good thing.
So
I don't think we just have to say anything else.
when they're talking about automation tools, we need to give a quick explainer because I'm certain that the very first thing that some more seasoned Linux users are going to scream silently in their heads is cron. We're not talking about cron. We're not
Yeah.
talking about systemd services. We're talking about xdotool. Now, xdotool is an application that Xorg has. It's a wonderful feature when you think about the possibilities you could do with it, but never actually figure out a proper use case for it. Of where it's a tool where you give it if I do thing Y, it does thing X. And basically, if it's a tool that changes, if I hit the Y key on my keyboard, it puts a window somewhere. That's
Yeah.
basically generally what xdotool does. Now,
Yeah.
this statement that they're providing in the post is actually wrong because ydotool does exist.
Exists, yes. Yes, and it can do some stuff, but it is comparably to xdotool quite limited.
Yeah.
Because again, you cannot do everything with your window because security. And then there is no window managers or that's broken. Window managers and desktop environments are broken because they have limited control over window management. Again, that's not really categories that actually care about that because window manager now becomes a compositor and that thing already has unlimited control over window management.
Yeah. Now,
Unlimited.
here's the fairest point that they have: accessibility.
Yes, but you should point out it's getting better.
It is getting better. Screen readers, for the most part, still kind of just don't work.
Yeah.
Magnifiers, however, they do. I can tell you right now that on KDE Plasma, if you're using a modern version of KDE Plasma version 6 on Wayland, if you just sit there and shake your mouse will grow. And you can set a hotkey in your keyboard settings, so that way if you hold that key, it zooms on where your mouse is. So that sounds like a working magnifier to me. I don't think it exists in GNOME because GNOME be different.
And the last one is remote desktop solutions, which I can fairly certainly say that's a bold-faced lie based on the fact that I run a remote desktop little setup, and I literally most of the things I do over remote desktop. Everything works just fine. I literally installed a desktop environment in alpha, and everything works just fine. In this case, it was Cosmic. And I didn't need to do anything special to make it work. I literally installed Sunshine, and everything worked.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the broken application categories, but let's talk about hardware and driver issues, right? So,
before we continue, let's speed things up a bit because it's already taking a long time.
Oh yeah, it kind of is. So touches on.
I'm gonna summarize this category into there is NVIDIA compatibility issues. There are multi GPU setups. There's problems with older hardware and specialized input devices. Some of those are actual problems. Some of those nobody cares about because even the companies that make those don't care about, aka multi GPU setups. And older hardware, support.
At some point, things need to die.
Yeah. So, and then we have the once again talking about compositor fragmentation, like protocol inconsistencies, feature availability varies, performance differences, and configuration incompatibilities. Once again, we're gonna refer you to that protocol chart. That's the place to go for the first two. And performance will vary, but it also varied on X11. And configuration incompatibilities, yeah, of course. There wasn't one configuration even in X11 times logically. So then they have a bit of a history section with basically saying things that are X11 things that we had 37 years of continuous development, which isn't true because by 2008 everything stopped. Bug fixes, feature additions, stable, predictable, and extensively documented. By this time, we already talked about these 3 times, and that Ex Libre project continues this, but once again, Ex Libre project exists for 2 months. When it will exist for 2 years, we're gonna talk about it, but by that time, we're all gonna be on Wayland anyway.
Yeah, honestly, I don't even know if I would want to use an operating system that's two months old, let alone a display server.
Yeah,
like there's a reason why, like, the very first thing that happened over that RHEL controversy so many years ago when they decided they were just going to drop CentOS entirely, and then we had all these wonderful new CentOS clones pop up. There's a reason why I said, oh yeah, just don't even bother with those until like this amount of time has passed, because how many of them are still around? Not nearly as many that spun up, I can tell you that much.
Cool. And then they talk about Wayland development, how 16 years of development and still mission core functionality that X11 had for decades. Again, we do not care about feature parity, that wasn't made that way. And then they talk about the forced migration, as in distributions and desktop environments decided that they want to only care about Wayland, not X11.
Well, to be fair, sometimes we just need to let old things die. That's exactly. Really it. At some point, we probably don't have to worry about the 32-bit system, because when was the last 32-bit system made that for x86? Like at least 14 years ago. Yeah, it's 14 years old at this point. Just get a new computer.
Yeah. the security theater. They're saying that's primary justification, security for Wayland, but it's largely just a theater. Well, because modern sandboxing doesn't require a Wayland. Yes, but what they're proposing is containers and namespaces. Well, I can tell you that taking that this kind of X11 containerization, it would be a bigger mess than just doing Wayland. The desktop users need functionality or isolation. Yes, but what they say isn't true. They say that most desktop users run trusted applications and need them to work together. Yes, but that's why you have RPC. And RPC is easily done with Wayland anyway. You don't need you don't need too open of a world to do RPC.
Yeah, we already touched on accessibility, and then here's another bullet point for you, Bigpod: permission fatigue. Users will just click allow on every permission dialog anyway. It's still better. It's still better than Windows.
But still, not just still better than Windows. It's still better than not having anything.
That is true. False sense of security.
They also say false sense of security, but that is like, okay, yeah, most attack vectors don't require X11 protocols, sure, but some of them do. Why not close those holes up? That's kind of the point of security. You close the holes that are there, so there is less holes, so the attacker has to use more resources to get past the walls. And they say X11 is actively maintained. Once again, they're pointing to X Libre. X Libre is 2 months old. Nobody should care about it until it's 2 years old. Yep. Unless you like to live on bleeding edge of bleeding edge, but then that's your problem. And you should care about it and nobody else.
Yeah, let's talk about this performance miss here. Marginal gains at best. Real world performance differences are minimal. Honestly, that's like that's expected. If anything,
yes.
I'm glad that it's a minimal difference, because heaven forbid,
yeah,
I'd hate to see what would happen if there was a big difference. Talk about how X11 is already hardware accelerated. Let's talk about like how X11 does hardware acceleration. How about no, because that's a nightmare.
Yes.
Compositor overhead. Wayland compositors oftentimes use more resources than an X11 plus a window manager. I want to know where they're getting this number from, because KDE Plasma for me works heavier under X11 than it does on Wayland.
Yeah.
Regressions in many use cases, many users reporting worse performance under Wayland, probably because they're
wait a second.
Oh,
I have to point to the point number 1. Marginal gains at best. This would real world performance differences are minimal. This would suggest there isn't much performance difference on average. So the worst performance cannot be that bad. It just might be bad enough to show on a graph.
Here's my theory, right? The compositor that these users were running, they didn't enable the screen tearing protocol, and they were booting up a video game and not seeing like 500 FPS in like their Counter-Strike. Instead, they saw 60.
Were seeing the 60 that come from the vSync. Yeah, that's also an option.
I bet you that's how they ran into that, because I still see people post about that on the Linux gaming subreddit.
Also, next point could probably skew the results. Variable performance varies wildly between different Wayland compositors. We should also remember that certain Wayland compositors are barely out of alpha or beta, so they are probably slower than GNOME or KDE or Hyperland or something that's been on the sim for years.
Yeah,
of course, and if you take everything as average, you're gonna have lower than stable, because hasn't been changed in years, X11.
Yeah, and then we're just going to skip feature regression comparison because we've already talked about that. Let's
Yes.
talk about how Wayland is apparently damaging the Linux ecosystem with, an application developer exodus. Developers are increasingly reluctant to support Linux due to the complexity of increased development costs, reduced feature parity, support burden, and user confusion. Bigpod, do application developers actually need to support multiple display servers? Do they absolutely have to support
No.
Wayland no matter what?
No. Xwayland exists, and for most developers, GTK, ICE Toolkit, Qt already brings all the things they need. All they have to do is set couple of values at best, if that is even necessary. So there is no actual increase in development costs, because that would mean you were developing toolkit from scratch, at which point, yeah, but then you basically signed up for it.
Yeah. Reduced feature parity, we already talked about that. The support burden, we basically just
Sure,
talked
there
about
is
that.
More support, but
Uh,
and again, just one more machine, that's
yeah.
it.
User confusion. The good old fashioned quote, "It works on my Linux but not yours," kind of scenario. Becoming
That's,
apparently more common. I mean,
well,
there are.
it's already common.
Yeah, it's already common enough. Half the adventure is just figuring out why it's different.
Remember, in server world, that quote is jokingly the reason Docker exists in server world.
Yeah. Speaking of servers, let's talk about the enterprise resistance. We got workflow disruption. Critical business applications break under Wayland. Well, here's the wonderful thing about the enterprise. They'll just roll back.
Yeah, they just stay on X11
Yeah.
for another 10 years because, well, X11, and because they are okay using 5-year-old system,
There
because
are
they can pay for canonical extended support.
there are still AWS servers running a 2.9 kernel.
Yes.
So, yeah. Training costs. IT staff need to learn multiple compositor environments. That is not
Remember,
true.
yes, remember we had one of the signatories is a guy who manages 500 Linux workstations. I highly doubt that if he thinks that he will need to learn, or she, let's go with they need to learn,
Yep.
multiple compositor environments, because like, you will make a golden image. It will have likely GNOME on likely Ubuntu. That's all you'll need to learn. You already know it.
And honestly, if you're allowing people to use KDE instead of GNOME, you signed up for it.
Yeah. Those kind of companies that allow those kind of things already probably has a policy of, if you change it, it's your problem. So yeah,
Uh,
there is support complexity. Yes, there is slight support complexity, because user has to click I allow for them to connect onto my system, which they already had to, because that's how all remote desktop or all remote desktop support programs work. They just have to place it again. It's harder.
here's one that I've actually seen vendor support. Commercial software vendors dropping Linux support rather than dealing with Wayland complexity. I would like to, first of all, scroll all the way back up to the very top of this article where 3% shows up. That
Yeah.
probably does more to do with the
That's
vendor
the
dropping
reason.
support than Wayland.
Yes. Well, then I talk about community fragmentation. Well,
Yes.
distro wars are supposedly intensifying. No, they're not. There is one class of distros, which in my opinion nobody should care about, that will have X11 still there as a differentiator. They are lovingly called protest distros.
Yeah.
Let's just move away from those and let them be protesting right over there, wherever they are.
Documentation fragmentation. This is honestly true. Why? Because Wayland's new. Sorry.
Yes.
Google search might need to be updated. Forum confusion for basically the same exact thing. Developer energy wasted. Time spent on Wayland compatibility instead of new
We already
features.
talked about this.
Yeah.
They repeat multiple points multiple times. It's basically, in my opinion, it goes for the argument of volume. So more things written, more true kind of thing. And there's supposedly innovation stagnation. Again, look at previous point, the developer energy waste. It's literally an entire section just about that. So let's go on to real world casualties of Wayland adoption, where we're gonna see a lot of repetition, because the first part is gaming and streaming, because OBS apparently has reduced functionality under Wayland.
Okay,
Haven't
so
noticed.
honestly, how many people actually use dock windows?
Not many.
Yeah, not many. Game streaming software often fails to capture screens. That's because the game streaming...
No, it doesn't. I already told that I do that stuff every day. No, it doesn't.
Overlay applications don't work properly because they're not calling the correct protocol. And honestly, it's probably easier to call it on Wayland than it is on X11.
Yes.
Many games have input and display issues. That is your compositor's fault, not Wayland's.
Yes.
Professional software. CAD applications lose window management capabilities. Why does the CAD program need to manage a window? IDE features like a global search hotkey breaking.
What the hell is this?
Right?
Because that doesn't make sense. Because if you're gonna be searching in IDE, you're probably gonna be focused on IDE.
Honestly,
nothing else in this idea makes sense to me. So probably just wanted to throw fourth thing on here.
They were throwing something there because heaven forbid I can still enter just /key in my Vim or Control S in Emacs or hit Control F in basically everything else, and still be
in
able
VS
to...
Code, Shift P still opens the big menu of everything.
Yeah, so I can operate perfectly fine under Wayland.
Yes.
Screen
annotation tools becoming unusable. No, not true. You can still do things on screen like annotate and shit. That still works. And again, remote collaboration tools fail. Again, look at remote desktops. Enough said.
Yeah.
Then there is
accessibility. Just go right past that. System administration. Remote system desktop.
A remote
solutions.
desktop again.
Yep.
We already talked about it, as well as screen sharing, because that's exactly the same thing. Automation scripts, we already talked about that. Just certain you can do things with why do tool as well, but not as much because security. Monitoring tools lose functionality again. You cannot get all the information because security. And yes, I know you're gonna say you use security as a crutch. I am literally a security guy. For me, security ain't a crutch, it's the main feature.
First of all, why does your monitoring tool need to check what's going on in the display session?
Yes. Why?
First of all, let's talk about this use case first of all. Obviously, on your golden image, you're going to have that checkbox enabled to automatically allow the screen share just by default. You're going to set that on your golden image because you're smart enough to do so. So your monitor. So realistically, when if you're using a Wayland session, you really don't need much more than that.
Yeah. Then if we go into next segment, creative works. Color management becomes inconsistent. No, it doesn't. It might be inconsistent on some weird compositors. Yes, graphics tablets do have a problem, but as far as I know, that's only with Wacom tablets. But I could be wrong. That's what I heard.
Color pickers work.
Color picker tools we already talked about in the screen recording. Yes, as I said, we're gonna have a lot of repetition here. Education, you have scientific software loses functionality. Again, this is mainly talking about multiple windows, screen capture, yada yada. Research will become unreliable. Again, probably just splitting windows, and the same with lab software compatibility issues. Because why would those tools be less compatible? Because they are running on Wayland.
Yes, and just to let you know, at this point, we're not even halfway through the article.
Yes.
So we're going to just talk about this next segment here, and probably
and then there is There is
Yeah.
just some of their musings
Yeah,
and
so
some very
there's
very nice
so
CSS.
here's some dreaming here, right? Here's some dreaming. They simply say there was a better way. They could have just added these. They could have just fixed X11.
And remember, we at the start of this segment talked about how they plan to deprecate X11 anyway. So this is really just a dream, a fever dream to be specific, on in the world where X11 doesn't get turned into X12 or Wayland or Mir.
Yeah, and then it talks about the love and glories of X Libre, so we're going to go past. Now, let's talk about what they're
Skip.
asking for. It's pretty obvious what they're asking for. Stop making Wayland the default and continue to use X11. Okay, so
Yes.
we'll move on here. Obviously,
They
there's
have some requests for distribution maintainers, desktop environment developers, and application developers, and they're literally keep X11 as default, which no, ensure X11 packages remain fully supported, again depending on the distro, and stuff like that, and to test applications on X11, and to not remove support for X11 without user consent, which is one of the most stupid ideas ever. Because if there is one user that doesn't want X11 to go, they're gonna be very loud. That doesn't go that way. They are distro maintainers for a reason. They can do with their distros whatever they want, just like X11 could do whatever they want by deciding to not care about it anymore and went with Wayland. It's their software. They can do whatever they want.
yeah.
Well,
Let's
they
talk
have
about
some fun requests for desktop environment developers, but they're essentially basically the same. And
Yeah.
application developers don't drop support for X11 and test thoroughly on X11 with documentation support. No.
Yeah, so-
If I make a desktop application, I'll do whatever is easiest, which is probably Wayland.
So let's talk about the economic cost of a premature Wayland adoption. Now, we have
Let's be
real.
clear, a lot of it's not economic costs, it's just costs.
So
because you
we
have
have
time
real-world
costs.
examples of when distributions enabled Wayland by default. We have the first time Ubuntu enabled Wayland. We have the second
Yes,
time
we have the
they enabled
second
Wayland,
time.
and now we're on the third time. We had when Fedora enabled Wayland. We have seen.
We have that one time when Red Hat basically said enough X11 and deleted it from the systems.
Yeah,
You know, like 2 months ago. Or what it was, 3?
something like that. Yes, there are costs because it is different.
Of course.
Is development really 2 to 3 times longer? Probably not. Testing matrix explosion? Maybe.
Apparently,
Increase.
$50 to $200,000 more. I highly doubt. If somebody willing to give me 200,000, I can make a testing matrix for a program that will cost that much, but I don't have that kind of money to test it. And what kind of matrix that would be?
There's also a tool.
I know a company that will be very happy to host it for me. I know 3.
Let's talk about the enterprise cost. Migration delays of 6 to 18 months. Additional planning time for Linux desktop deployments.
Okay, yes.
Training
Well, that's standard. You need to
training
have some-
overhead. 5,000 to 15,000 per IT staff member for multi-compositor environment training. If you're doing that, you're doing something wrong. Workflow disruption, 20 to 40% productivity loss during forced Wayland transitions. That's probably not going to be that bad after the first 2 days.
Yes. We're gonna have then they say learning curve of 10 to 20 hours of lost productivity per user. Oh no, they're gonna take 20% more time to complete a task that takes them a minute. So it's gonna take them what, a minute and 10 seconds.
Something like that. Okay.
I'm so
now
sorry.
these next two bullet points, I'm just going to answer right now. They should have been doing these. Probably should have been doing these upgrades diligently to begin with, because they're saying that $500 to $2,000 in replacing software that just simply doesn't work under Wayland, and upgrading hardware that doesn't work on Wayland. So they were going to be spending the money anyway, or at least they should have
Can
been.
we pause for a moment?
I guess we can. Well, anyways, Bigpod, there's a lot more to talk about in this article. We've got it linked in the show notes, but I think we're running awful long at this point. So
Yeah, I'm probably gonna be trimming this quite a bit as well, and I might include those streams into this very special YouTube feature called Shorts. So check the YouTube Shorts as well for the trimmed sections, and we might release the full episode on Patreon, not Patreon, on the premium version, which you'll then be able to listen to the cut version and the premium full version at glorious 320 kilobits per second.
Yes. Of course, in order to get that, you have to drop us a couple dollars on the Patreon.
Yes.
So, Bigpod, where can people find you? Bigpod.sc?
Yes, Bigpod.sc.
Okay.
And on YouTube as Bigpod.
Yep.
What about you, Josh? How they can find you?
I mean, I have the wonderful universal contact page of tinleyj.com/contact, which will conveniently link to all the other places that I exist. There is a more in-depth page. It's super secret, but if you're a stalker, you know exactly how to find it. So, I'll just leave that hint for you. I'm still waiting for the day where somebody will actually figure out what page, and if you do, send us an email with a link to that page, and then I will know that I need to do a better job of hiding myself. But anyways, that's gonna be it for this week. We will have a wonderful friendly chat next week, and we will talk about the beautiful and glories of our Snowflake enabled systems, because that's my tomorrow project, because for now I'm just gonna go get some dinner. So see you next week.
And I'm very happy to have better looking videos next week.
Maybe.
Goodbye.